How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
Let me in. Take that pain. Take it. Take it. You pushing me back. No.
The courtroom was so silent, you could hear a pin drop until the tape played. A new audio recording, crackling and raw, filled the courtroom speakers. And in that moment, everything changed. Diddy, seated at the defense table, his expression unreadable until now, suddenly gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and slammed his hand on the table. Gasps echoed throughout the room. Reporters scribbled furiously, and even the judge's gavel wasn't enough to calm the chaos. Because what played wasn't just another piece of evidence. It was the tape. The one prosecutors had been holding close. The one Diddy's lawyers had fought desperately to keep out of court. And the voice on that tape? His son, Christian Combs.
Now a son of embattled music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of... A lawsuit filed in LA Superior Court on Thursday accuses Christian King Combs of assaulting and possibly a woman in December 2022. The woman says it happened while she was working on a yacht that Diddy had chartered. This comes just over a week after homes owned by Diddy were raided in LA and Miami as part of a federal human trafficking investigation. Neither the attorneys for Combs or Diddy have commented on the new legal.
The room watched in stunned silence as Diddy's empire, already shaking, began to fall apart right before their eyes. The trial had already been intense. From the moment federal agents raided Diddy's mansions in Los Angeles and Miami, it was clear that this wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It was bigger, deeper, and far more personal. Diddy, once the king of bad boy records, was now sitting in a courtroom, accused of crimes that could put him away for decades. But what made this trial different wasn't just the charges. It was the betrayal. Because one of the prosecution's key witnesses was his own blood, his son, Christian Combs. A young man raised in luxury, praised in the media, treated like hip-hop royalty. The one who once stood beside his father on red carpets and at awards shows now stood across from him in court. His testimony had already shaken the case. But this new audio? It was a game changer.
In a new lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs' second son, Christian Combs, is accused of assaulting a crew member working on a super yacht. That suit was filed here in Los Angeles.
In the recording, Christian could be heard speaking candidly with investigators. His voice was tired, almost reluctant, but his words were damning. He described private flights, coded conversations, and most importantly, he confirmed his father's knowledge of everything, down to the last disturbing detail. And just like that, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. Even Diddy's most loyal supporters in the gallery leaned forward, shaken.
The case has produced audio recordings that allegedly shows forcing himself upon her and that he wouldn't take no for an answer.
The woman says it all happened during what was supposed to be a wholesome family excursion with Christian and his father.
Diddy, normally composed and strategic, lost control for the first time since the trial began. He stood up abruptly, pointed toward the prosecution table, and shouted, "That's a lie! That's my son! You twisted him!" The judge immediately ordered a recess. U.S. Marshals quickly escorted Diddy out of the courtroom as his lawyers tried to calm him down. Outside, chaos exploded. News cameras captured every angle. Reporters shouted questions. Social media lit up. Diddy explodes in court, and family betrayal deepens trended within minutes. Inside sources say that this outburst wasn't just emotional, it was the breaking point. For weeks, Diddy had been holding it together. His legal team had painted him as a target, a man unfairly pursued. They argued that his success, his wealth, and his skin color made him an easy mark. But the new audio destroyed that defense. It came from someone who knew Diddy's world better than anyone. Someone who had been inside the very rooms where the alleged crimes took place. Someone who once called him Dad. And now, Christian wasn't just a witness. He was the nail in the coffin. So, how did it come to this? How did a father and son end up on opposite sides of the courtroom?
And the judge did. Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
According to court records, Christian had been cooperating quietly for months.
Move to the side. Step back. Open this up. You okay, man? You guys okay?
How are you guys feeling? What happened on the inside? What emotions are you feeling?
But it wasn't until a sealed memo leaked that the world found out he had cut a deal. Immunity in exchange for testimony. He had handed over voice notes, emails, text messages.
You're not guilty. Did you not do it? What's it like being in court?
Evidence that painted a chilling picture. Some say Christian was pressured. Others claim he had no choice.
But focusing on Christian Combs. Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure Markey to take shots of tequila. That she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor, all of whom she knew would be asleep at the time. So this was a way for her to get out of the situation. She claims that Christian said, "Who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now." Well, Markey then says she responded with, quote, "Well, you can take your hand off my ass for the first thing." Markey says this is what happened next.
Still, others believe he was simply tired of living a double life. Whatever the reason, his decision flipped this case upside down. One source close to the family claims that Christian broke down when he first heard the audio himself. He didn't want to hurt his father, the source said, but he also didn't want to live with the guilt. And the guilt? It was written all over his face as he sat in court, refusing to meet his father's gaze. This wasn't just about law, it was about legacy. Diddy had spent decades building a brand, a name, a legend. But behind the music, the fashion, the money, was a secret that no one was supposed to know.
After the lunch break, Deontay Nash, which was Cassie's stylist and friend, went into details about maybe 10 different incidents of violence. Reading all of this, you really felt like Diddy was running the mafia, and we're going to get into every single incident, starting with the one in Cassie's apartment. We now know who the two friends were that jumped on Diddy's back. It was not only Deontay, but the personal assistant that they're calling Mia. We already know that Cassie was supposed to be packing for the OVO festival, and Diddy came into her apartment unannounced because she wasn't picking up her phone. He then allegedly grabbed her by the hair and began. And Cassie, Deontay, and Mia ran into her room and tried to lock the door. He forced the door open and continued beating on Cassie. Deontay and Mia jumped on Diddy's back and he threw them off. And Diddy hit Cassie's head against the bed frame and she began bleeding from her eyebrow, and he looked at them and said, "Look what y'all made me do." He said Diddy sent Cassie to a plastic surgeon with his security guard, D-Rock, and the next day he FaceTimed her and saw that she had stitches and a gash on her forehead.
He continued his testimony, recounting a specific night that prosecutors believed to be central to the case. He named names, gave dates, recalled conversations. Each word was a brick in the wall that now separated him from his father forever. Diddy's legal team tried to object, calling the audio hearsay, claiming it was taken out of context. But it was too late. The jury had heard it. The world had heard it. And no matter what Diddy's lawyers said, they couldn't unhear it. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered. Some held signs reading "Justice for Christian." Others shouted, "Free Diddy!" The Combs family, once viewed as royalty in the world of hip-hop, now looked more like a broken dynasty. Backstage, sources say Diddy has become increasingly isolated. He refuses most visitors. He barely speaks to anyone except his attorneys. His legal team, still aggressive, still defiant, insists that the truth will come out. But after today, that truth may be darker than anyone imagined, because when a son turns against his father, when secrets become court evidence, and when the empire starts to crumble, there's no going back.
Incident number 2 was around 2013 that happened outside of a music video set. Deontay said he stepped out for a cigarette and Diddy confronted him because he was angry that he had gone out with Cassie. He said Diddy threw him on the car him and said, "I thought I told y'all about going out." Diddy was jealous that Cassie was going out with others and was taking it out on him. Incident number 3 was at Cassie's apartment, but remember, Diddy pays for this apartment. He and Cassie were at the apartment when Diddy came in and told them to get out of his house. He said Diddy grabbed her by the hair and the shirt and pushed her out of the door and began doing the same to him, but because he didn't have hair, Diddy was punching him in the back of the head.
And as Diddy sat quietly, eyes fixed on nothing, one thing became heartbreakingly clear. The man who once had it all, money, fame, power, family, was now losing everything. Not in a nightclub, not in a business deal, but in a courtroom. Because of a voice that once called him Dad, and now calls him out. And the world is listening.